Have you ever wondered why more than 2 billion people across the world identify as Christians? Why a faith that emerged over 2,000 years ago in a small province of the ancient Middle East has spread across continents and shaped the very foundations of human civilization? Christianity is not merely a religion of rituals or doctrines. It is a story about love, forgiveness, and the human longing for a home beyond all wandering. It has inspired magnificent cathedrals and quiet prayers whispered in silence. It has moved artists, philosophers, rulers, and ordinary men and women. And beneath its history, its influence, and its global presence lies a central promise that every human being is embraced by unconditional love. Hello, everyone. My name is Mr. X9, founder of the knowledge ecosystem, The Way Home, a journey of 36 YouTube channels, each one a doorway into a new world of learning, discovery, and inspiration. In this video, we will explore Christianity not as an institution, but as a spiritual journey. We will walk through its origins, its heart, and its enduring relevance. The journey is not about persuading you to believe, but about understanding a faith that has shaped human history, and perhaps discovering how its values resonate with your own search for meaning. This is The Way Home, an invitation not to escape life, but to return to what is most authentic within yourself. A long time ago, Jesus of Nazareth told a story. It was not a lecture, nor a philosophical treatise, but a simple parable, one that continues to touch hearts across centuries. There was once a man who had 2 sons, the story begins. One day, the younger son asked his father for his share of the inheritance. With heavy heart, the father divided his estate. The son gathered his belongings and set off for a distant land, eager for freedom, wealth, and pleasure. For a while, he lived lavishly. He spent his fortune on feasts, friends, and fleeting joys. But wealth is not endless, and soon famine swept through the land. The once proud son found himself destitute, abandoned, and hungry. In desperation, he took the only job he could find, feeding pigs in the fields. Starving, he longed even for the pods that the animals ate. And then, amid misery, a thought stirred in his heart. Even my father's servants have bread enough while I am dying here. I will arise and go to my father. I will say, Father, I have sinned. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. So he turned back. Each step home was heavy with shame and fear. Yet when he was still a long way off, his father saw him. And what did the father do? He did not wait with folded arms. He ran down the road, threw his arms around his son, and kissed him with tears of joy. The son began his rehearsed confession, but the father interrupted. Bring the best robe. Put a ring on his finger, sandals on his feet. Kill the fattened calf. Let us feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. The story, known as the parable of the prodigal son, ends not in condemnation, but in celebration. A son thought he was unworthy. A father thought only of love restored. It is one of the most powerful images of forgiveness and belonging ever told. And for Christianity, it is more than a tale. It is a mirror of its core truth, that no matter how far we wander, there is always a way home. The parable of the prodigal son is not simply a touching family story. For Christians, it is a living picture of God. The father in the story represents God, not as a distant, angry judge, but as a compassionate parent who waits, watches, and runs to embrace a child who returns. The wandering son represents each of us, human beings who, at times, lose ourselves, seek meaning in the wrong places, and fall short of our highest calling. At its heart, Christianity proclaims this: God is love. Not love as a vague sentiment, but love as a living, unconditional commitment. Love that forgives, restores, and transforms. This love is not earned by perfection. It is not withheld because of failure. It is freely given. In Christian belief, Jesus of Nazareth embodied this love in human form. His words, his actions, his compassion for the poor, the sick, the outcast, all of it expressed what God's love looks like in flesh and blood. And in the ultimate act of love, Christians believe that Jesus gave his life on the cross, not as defeat, but as a sacrifice that opened the way for reconciliation between God and humanity. A cross that becomes a symbol of hope. On the surface, the cross was a Roman instrument of torture and shame. It was meant to crush rebels and humiliate them publicly. Yet in Christianity, the cross was transformed into a paradoxical symbol, a sign of hope, forgiveness, and victory over death itself. For Christians, the resurrection of Jesus is the assurance that love is stronger than death, and that despair is never the final word. This is why the cross, once a symbol of cruelty, is now displayed at the center of Christian worship, not to glorify suffering, but to proclaim hope, that light shines in darkness and darkness cannot overcome it. The core values over centuries, theologians and believers have distilled the faith into a few core values. They are not abstract theories, but practical ways of living. Love. To love God and to love one's neighbor as oneself. This is the great commandment, the foundation on which all others rest. Without love, Christianity says, even the greatest achievements are empty. Forgiveness. Just as the Father forgave his Son, God forgives those who repent. But the challenge extends further. Believers are called to forgive one another, not once or twice, but 70 times 7. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is liberation from the chains of hatred and revenge. And compassion, to feel the suffering of others and respond with mercy. Jesus is often portrayed as moved with compassion. For Christians, compassion means feeding the hungry, healing the sick, comforting the sorrowful, and standing with the marginalized. A humility and service. In a world obsessed with power, Jesus washed the feet of his disciples, saying, "Whoever wants to be great must be the servant of all." To follow Christ is to put aside pride, to serve rather than to dominate. A hope. In a culture that often glorifies cynicism, Christianity insists on hope. Hope that goodness will prevail, that life has meaning, and that love has the final word. Christianity as community. From its earliest days, Christianity was not simply about private spirituality, but about forming a community. The first followers in Jerusalem shared their possessions, broke bread together, and cared for one another. Outsiders were astonished, saying, "See how they love one another." Over time, this community grew into what is known as the church, not a building of stone, but a fellowship of people bound together by faith and love. Through centuries, despite divisions and failures, the ideal has remained, to be a family where all are welcome, where the stranger becomes a neighbor, and the neighbor becomes a brother or sister. The global influence Christianity's impact on history is vast. It inspired works of art like Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel, Bach's sacred music, and novels that grapple with grace and redemption. It shaped philosophies of justice and human rights, insisting on the dignity of every person as a child of God. It gave birth to hospitals, schools, and movements for social reform. Of course, the history of Christianity also includes shadows, times when the church failed to live up to its ideals, times of violence and corruption. But at its best, Christianity has been a force of love and renewal, calling people back to compassion, forgiveness, and service. A universal longing. Even for those who are not Christians, the values resonate because they speak to something universal, the longing for love, for forgiveness, for belonging, for hope. The story of the prodigal son is not just about one family long ago. It is about every human heart that has ever felt lost, and every human heart that longs to be found. Christianity gives words and images to this longing. It says, "You are not alone, you are loved, you can come home." What does all of this mean for us today? Christianity is not simply a history lesson or a set of doctrines, it is meant to be a way of life. And its values are not locked inside church walls. They can shape everyday life, even for those who do not identify as Christian. Think first of love. The idea of unconditional love can transform families. Imagine a household where love is not dependent on success, wealth, or perfection, but where each person is valued simply for who they are. Such love heals wounds, bridges generations, and creates an environment where people can flourish. Now consider forgiveness. Our world is full of conflict, between nations, between neighbors, even within ourselves. Forgiveness does not erase justice, but it allows new beginnings. When one person forgives another, the cycle of retaliation is broken, and space is made for healing. Then there is compassion. In a society often driven by competition, compassion reminds us of our shared humanity. It can be as simple as offering a listening ear, supporting a struggling friend, or volunteering time to help the poor. Compassion does not need to be grand. It simply needs to be sincere. Humility and service challenge us to rethink leadership and success. True greatness, Christianity insists, is not measured by how many serve you, but by how many you serve. Leaders who embrace humility build trust and community. Families, workplaces, and societies thrive when service, not ego, takes the lead. Finally, hope. In times of crisis, whether personal or global, hope sustains us. Hope is not naive optimism. It is the conviction that even in darkness, light is possible. This is why the cross, once a symbol of defeat, is now the Christian symbol of hope. A reminder that even out of suffering, new life can rise. At the deepest level, Christianity invites every person to a journey of coming home. Home to love, home to forgiveness, home to one's truest self. For some, this home is experienced in faith in God. For others, it is felt in community, in acts of kindness, or in moments of profound inner peace. The essence is the same. It is the discovery that we are not defined by our failures, but by the love that calls us back. At this point, let us pause. Beyond doctrines and histories, what does this mean for you, here and now? Perhaps you recall a moment when you were forgiven unexpectedly, or a time when someone showed you compassion you did not deserve. How did it feel? Was it not like a weight lifted, like being welcomed home after a long journey? Christian tradition has long emphasized this universal longing. St. Augustine, a thinker from the 4th century, once confessed after years of searching for meaning, "You have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our hearts are restless until they rest in you." Even if you do not share Augustine's faith, you may recognize the restlessness, that human ache for peace, belonging, and love. The parable of the prodigal son reminds us that it is never too late to turn back, never too late to rediscover love, never too late to come home. The journey may begin with small steps, forgiving someone who hurt you, showing kindness to a stranger, or forgiving yourself for past mistakes. These are acts of return. The way home is not only about God, it is about the inner path each of us must take. It is about looking honestly at our lives, recognizing where we have strayed, and daring to believe that a new beginning is possible. In that sense, the Christian message and the universal human journey overlap. Both are about finding our way back to what is true, what is good, what is love. In the end, Christianity is not primarily about institutions, rituals, or rules. At its heart, it is a story about love. Love that forgives, love that welcomes, love that renews. It is the story of a God portrayed not as a distant ruler, but as a father who runs down the road to embrace his child. Through the centuries, this message has taken countless forms, in art, in music, in communities of faith. Sometimes it has been obscured, even betrayed by human weakness. Yet the core remains: love God. Love one another. The parable of the prodigal son whispers to us still, it is never too late to come home. No matter how far we have wandered, the door is open, the light is on, and someone waits with arms outstretched. As we close this reflection, let us remember, the home of Christianity is not only a place of worship. It is a way of being, living with love, forgiveness, compassion, humility, and hope. And this way is open to all who seek it, regardless of where they begin. Reading and contemplating the story of the prodigal son, I feel as though I am looking into a mirror. Along life's journey, there have been times when I chased fleeting desires and ambitions, only to end up with a sense of emptiness. Yet whenever I think of that home of peace, where love and compassion are always present, I realize I was never truly alone. This story strengthens my belief that no matter how many mistakes we make, there is always a chance to return, to be embraced by genuine love. How about you? When listening to this story, did you ever see a glimpse of yourself in the prodigal son? Have you ever been forgiven or loved at a moment when you least expected it? How did that experience shape you? In your view, what is the true home that your soul has been searching for? Please share your thoughts in the comments. Your experiences might become a source of inspiration for others who are also on their own journey toward inner peace. If this video has spoken to you, consider sharing it with others. Perhaps it may be the spark of hope someone else needs. And if you would like to continue exploring journeys like this, we invite you to like, comment, subscribe, and share. For in the end, the way home is not only about religion. It is about the human search for meaning, and the discovery that what we seek has always been waiting for us, within love, within truth, within the heart that longs to come home.